Welcome back to another episode of Norse Studies with Zakk. We're going over the culture of the Teutons. If you haven't watched any of my episodes, they're in 10-minute intervals. We're just reading this together. Feel free to start at any episode that you've missed. Go back through my page. You can catch up with us. It's pretty easy. We're just going to go through this book together, kind of discern what Wilhelm Grønbekk is trying to say about Norse culture.
Gisli's blow was a serious matter for Thorkel. He himself to Gisli. You have done me no little wrong, I should say, in slaying Thorgrim, my brother-in-law, and partner and close friend. The great obligations which use and custom laid upon friends towards another are evidence of the seriousness with which such intimacy was regarded, and how deeply the parties engaged themselves and their will in the relationships. Thorkel's position is therefore more bitter than immediately appears. But friendship must give way to Frith. It is not a matter of choice on Thorkel's part. Here again, we have the same contrast as in the Gudrun poems. Thorkel's bitterness and his Frith can have no dealings the one with the other. They cannot come within reach of each other so as to give rise to any conflict, for they belong to different strata of the soul. To us, perhaps, it may seem as if there was a link missing from the sober statement of the story, but the words as they stand are good Icelandic psychology. This Frith is something that underlies all else, deeper than all inclination. It is not a matter of will, in the sense that those who share it again and again choose to set their kinship before all other feelings. It is rather the will itself. It is identical with the actual feeling of kinship, and not a thing deriving from the source.
So he's saying that Frith is so deep within these people that it's almost like you were born with it. It's like an instinct. It's not something that derives from the fact that your brother and you are brothers. It's just, it is what it is. It's in itself. It's a powerful force that drives these people. And it's not something that's learned. It's like they're born with it.
Thorkel has his sorrow, as Gudrun has hers. But the possibility which should make that sorrow double-edged, the mere thought that one could take sides here, is out of the question. Thus, there can never be room for any problem. The fact of kin siding against kin is known to poetry only as a mystery, or a horror, as the outcome of a madness, or as something dark, incomprehensible, something that is not even fate.
So I'm going to veer off here a little bit, and I haven't done this quite yet. I'm not a master of mythology, I'm not a master of stories, and I'm not a master of poetry, but I think about this when I hear other stories, and I think about how heart-wrenching it would have been for things like this. So when he says the fact of kin siding against kin is known to poetry only as a mystery or a horror. So imagine, let's shed our societal bonds and everything we've learned. We're new little babies and we know nothing. Alright? And in us, we have this bond with our family that's unbreakable. We can't even break it. Even if we feel like we should break it, we know we can't. We don't bring problems into our family. Alright, so we're all sitting in town, and this poet comes in to entertain us. And he starts telling us the story of Balder. For those of you unfamiliar, Balder is Odin's son.
one of Odin's sons. All right. Balder also has a twin brother, Hoder. So essentially, Balder's mother goes out and she tells everyone. Now this is a snippet. This isn't there's much more details than this. But she gets everybody to take a vow, and we know how deeply the Norse vows actually were. She gets everybody to take a vow to never harm Balder. She gets the stones, the fish, arrow, not arrows. I mean every inanimate object. Fire, all sorts of stuff, to get them to vow that they will never harm Balder. But because of Loki, she wasn't able to get, I think it was mistletoe. She wasn't able to get mistletoe to vow that it wouldn't hurt Balder. And the prophecy, the whole reason she's doing this, is because the prophecy is that Hoder would kill Balder. Now, we don't know how, we don't know why he would do that. I mean, they're brothers. Imagine a poet coming into your town and telling you this, right? Now, he's saying it's only, what did he say? A mystery or horror. It's incomprehensible, right? So, we're babies. We don't know anything. And this poet comes in and just starts spewing this stuff about how the gods, two of the godly brothers, one of them is going to kill the other. Could you imagine how horrific that would be? I mean, that's literally like, I'm sure there's mothers in the crowd covering children's ears. Oh my gosh, you can't listen to this. This is the most horrific thing, This is kind of like having a 5-year-old watch Dawn of the Dead or what have you, It's one of those things that you're like, if they hear this, if they watch this is going to mess them up. That's how scary this type of thing is. This is their horror story. That's a horrible thing, okay? So essentially this poet's telling this horror story and all these people are just in shock. What is going on? Now you got to remember that not everyone back then knew the lore. Not everybody, there are hundreds of Norse gods. From the giants to the Aesir to the Vanir, elves, dwarves, all sorts of things. And all of them were revered in different ways, and some people held them more personally than others. So you might have a whole group of people that knew that Balder and Hoder existed, but they may not know of the story, right? So this poet comes in telling this horrific story. Because of Loki, the mistletoe is doesn't take the vow to not hurt Balder. Well, everybody's at a party and Balder's mom comes back and she's like, everything's all good, everybody's taking a vow. So everybody's like, really? Okay, so they pick up a stone, throw it at Balder. Doesn't hurt him, nothing, right? So now they're throwing axes at him, they're throwing swords at him, they're chopping him with all their weapons and they're shooting arrows at him. Well, in this horrific story, Hoder takes mistletoe as an arrow and shoots it at Balder and kills him. The one thing that didn't take a vow, and the prophecy begins. And you can imagine how horrific this is. And if you're unfamiliar with Norse lore, this is the precursor, this is the beginning of the end of the world. Because it's such a mystery, it's so horrific, it's so unfathomable that brothers could kill one another.
especially in the godly sense, that this is where the Norse Armageddon begins. And if you're unfamiliar with the Norse version of the end of the world, sorry guys. If you're unfamiliar with the Norse version of the end of the world, it's referred to as Ragnarok. And essentially, all the gods at the end, all the gods and powerful creatures, they come and they fight each other, and pretty much everybody ends up dead. There's a lot of gods that survive Ragnarok, and I'm pretty sure there's 2 humans left. But that marks the end of times. A brother killing a brother, essentially, over many more stories, starts the end of times. That's intense. I'm sorry to kind of veer off the story here, but when you guys listen to me read this, I want you to think about things through these eyes. I want you to be able to shed what you know and think about how horrific these tales are, so you can imagine how horrifying this story would be if a poet had come in and basically said, yeah, 2 of the gods, they're brothers, and one of them kills the other one. What? And what's even worse is, later down the line, another, half-brother kills Hodor. And it's just a spiral from there into the end of times. So you can imagine, you're in your little world, and the only way to understand how vast the actual world is to venture out on a ship for months and months and months, and hopefully you come back and you can share these stories and things like that. But in your little world, if you're not raiding or you're a child and you only know so much, the most you've done is gone a few miles out with mom or dad to, pick berries or go hunting, and you don't understand how the world works, and somebody just told you it's all going to end, and it's going to end because a brother killed a brother. That's scary. That's some scary stuff, especially for a culture that runs off Frith. This is in their blood. They were born with this trait. That's, you can imagine. And so I like I said, I don't mean to veer off, but I want you guys to understand how crazy it is for a brother to kill a brother in this culture. It's absolutely insane. I'm going to stop right there. If you guys want to get something else out of these videos, if you want them to be longer, if you want them to be shorter, please comment below. Rate, comment, subscribe. It helps me out. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.